Recording in progress.
Today, I wanted to go into a bit of how Let the Story Write Itself became almost like my life motto. Not only the name of this podcast, and this being episode 5 now, but also just that whole philosophy. So I speak a lot on intuition, spirituality, and alignment. And for me, that is actually truly embodied in the motto, Let the Story Write Itself. And how this really came about was, if you know a bit about my story, when I was 17, I had this education fund saved for me, and I felt almost obligated to use it to go to university and almost like shamed, right? Okay, I'm doing this out of obligation. That's never the starting point. So I was not necessarily in my flow. I was not necessarily just operating out of my natural instincts and impulses and freely choosing for myself, because there was a little bit of that ickiness and entanglement and a bit of confusion where, externalities, and you feel like, oh, well, I should maybe, or this and that. There was a lot of back and forth. And so I go more into that in episode 2. But long story short, when I completed the degree because at some point it's like, well, whatever. I'm like, I mean, whether I did or I didn't, I feel like it's a moot point now, right? It was an experience that I had, and from that point on, I was like, I'm just gonna flow and free flow, and I'm not boxing myself into something just because of some kind of external uh, belief that I should or something. So I'm like going inwards, right? I'm just kind of feeling that freedom that I now am like, well, I went and did what I felt like I should do. But was it really my choice? No. And I had many times like wanted to withdraw, and I just didn't necessarily have that, I guess you could say, that really strong determination, like this is for sure what I want. I was not totally steeped in that feeling of I'm choosing for myself and alignment and intuition is my top priority. Uh, when you're just a kid, you're just kind of like bopping on through life and you're quite carefree. At least I was. And I didn't really pay attention that much to like how I was making decisions or why. I kind of just, for the most part, was able to do my own thing and do what I wanted to do. But then it really came to when I was about to go to university, where I suddenly felt the sense of being locked into something that I had not ever felt before in my life. I never felt that feeling of being locked in. And I explained in episode 2, I'm like, it feels like I'm in jail right now. Like, that was just such an icky feeling. I felt cold and empty. And it's just like my soul was not pulling me there. I was not feeling in alignment at all. Just the whole circumstances around it. And I was getting messages to pivot and to like just withdraw, just give myself that space, maybe go travel, right? However, that came about, I don't have to have it all figured out at that point. So, as you can see, one point is like very much this feeling of being constricted, of being like forced in a way, of being like you're being made to conform into a certain, like contorted into a certain shape, or like, okay, you must fit into this. And it's just feeling very like there's a constricted feeling there, right? There's a lack of the free flow. There's also that lack of being able to just move according to your impulse and your intuition. And a lot of it was also just coming from your mind, like making up things, almost like thinking like, oh no, there's like FOMO, and maybe you're projecting into the future. You're not truly just present and with how you're feeling like in this moment, and you're thinking of this and that, and you're overanalyzing, and at that point I was thinking like it's not even that I don't like school. Like I actually like learning and studying and education. And for one of the things is that I'm like interested in everything. So it's like, I want to do that. Like I could see myself doing anything, like any particular program or faculty or occupation. Like, well, they all sound good in some sense, but but none of them, not one of them was necessarily calling me. So if I was like, oh, maybe I'll go and I'll do this, it's like, oh, but what about this? And so it was like, nowadays, like so many things are multi hyphenated, and like, you know, people are not necessarily just putting themselves into one thing. Like they're doing many things at once. And a lot of times there's a lot more options nowadays, especially with the technological age, right? So so for me, it's like just fitting myself into one particular uh, avenue. I just that's where a lot of my confusion came in because I was like, well, I don't mind going to school and like doing something that can like, you know, provide a skill to society and like all that. But what I don't actually feel called to any particular thing. And this isn't about like, oh, you have to feel called to it. It was just simply like, well, for one, I was feeling a massive, massive aversion to this traditional path of going to a university to study for a traditional type of occupation or career. And I already felt like there were a lot of limitations in those particular, and for me personally, I just was not pulled to it. So by the time I got out of university, I was like, I'm just going to try all the things I've never done. Like I never had a job really before that. I'd maybe worked like some summer jobs here and there and just tried out a couple things. And I was like, I'm just gonna do a lot of things and like get a lot of experience. And that I did. I got a lot of experience, but the most what I truly was like paying attention to more than anything else, like in the practical sense or the idea of just like um, you know, being in the working world or whatever, I was really paying attention, like how did these things come about? How did I feel led to certain things? How did, what was the path that took me there? Like how did this idea come about? And I realized that a lot of times when I was like trying to do something, or like I was like, oh, maybe I want to do that. It always had this almost like empty, kind of like hollow feeling. And I always felt like it was just like lacking a certain magic. It was kind of like very much like that university experience. So it's just like, yeah, just go through the motions. Like there was no sense of like aliveness or purpose in it for me specifically, right? I had a lot more enjoyment in my life outside of university than I did like actually on the freaking campus. Like I always loved just playing games and like reading fiction novels and things of that nature, baking and just spending time at home and having fun and like being outdoors and in the backyard or whatever. But I like studying too. Like I like learning about things on the theoretical and level and like learning new things. But the whole actual experience of it just felt very too contrived. It felt too like it was not in my path of flow, me even going to university. So by the time I actually got out of it, I was like paying attention, like, well, how do I actually, I naturally tend to just flow and like move more freely and according to how my instincts are guiding me at any given point. So that's really how I did. And I ended up going to like exploring so many places in my own hometown that I'd never really done before and doing it on my own too, without necessarily being driven around or being with other people, which in itself can be in a way of limiting because you're not as free to think your own thoughts or move as you are called to as when you do so on your own. So during this time, I had like 16 plus jobs, and like you can imagine, just like that whole, just the ton of experience I got, like in uh, different industries, places, and just different means of like how you interact with different people and whatnot, and and how I even came about to find these 16 different jobs, or it's like how did that even come about? Like that interested me more than the actual jobs themselves. Like I was more interested in like, oh, what was that one where I just happened to be in this particular place and I got this feeling and like suddenly something just seemed to light up and I got an idea and it was spontaneous and I just went with it and I just did something and I just decided to spontaneously apply. Or I'm like, maybe I was feeling a bit of fear, which I don't like, not fear, but like a feeling of like there's this type of feeling I sometimes get when you're in alignment. It's almost like this feeling of you feel like this really like this wave of like warmth come over you, and suddenly it almost makes you feel like very like humble in a sense. You're like you feel like you don't have to operate from a sense of ego or anything because you just feel so like taken care of in some way. And that's how I would actually describe the feeling of alignment. It's a feeling like something is like taking care of you from beyond and you're just simply showing up. And so this was one of the feelings that I had. Well, I had this feeling like on quite a few occasions, and I became a lot more aware and present to it. So these are the things I was paying attention during this whole journey being out of the university. And at this time, then I also then started flowing more to different courses of action. Like I went to a Vipassana, and I also started trying out new things. Like I tried like door-to-door sales and things of that nature. And I really started just moving away from this idea like I had to fit myself into a particular like type of situation or type of career or what that would look like, or even things that my mind would think. Like I would think of like maybe I just need to do this or I need to do that. And I would take all sorts of like personality quizzes and like assessments and just thinking way too much, essentially. There's like so much thinking in your head and not actually just feeling things. So this is essentially what was happening for me when I mentioned I started just flowing more, and then I started going to like Vipassana, and I was just starting to do things that I enjoyed, including just starting to travel more on my own and go on more bike rides, like just really becoming more fit in some sense and more independent and learning to like just trust my own voice and intuition. And so at some point around like 2015, after I had done like quite a few things at this point, I had gone on this 3-week solo trip through the west coast of the USA. So by this point, it's like I'm already in a certain groove where it's like, yeah, I've done solo travel. I've, gone my fitness level to a certain point. And I also am quite a lot more comfortable being like independent and on my own, and just like that I'm also venturing now for longer periods of time, like on my own. And just it's like become my new identity in a sense that is quite different than when I was like in university or job hopping, right? So during this 3-week trip, I even just this trip itself, it kind of just came about very spontaneously. It was not a trip I had planned. I was actually working in for this entrepreneur who owns a game store. And I actually really enjoyed that place. I liked it because I felt like I liked her energy. Her energy was like different than someone who's just like, a manager or something. It's like I always like admired that concept of someone who creates something of their own from scratch. And she just had a certain like energy that I really related to. So it's like I quite enjoyed being in this place, despite the fact that obviously on some level I was still technically an employee. Although it was very like it was very flexible in that I was always able to like choose my own hours. I was like, I don't know, it's like what I call like a fun job, okay? And I always like loved games. I was like got like a discount on the games. And, like I already know about games, so I just liked it in many ways. And so anyway, at some point I was like, I'm getting this feeling like I need to like I'm feeling like I need to get out for something, but like not just be confined to this place at least for a little bit. And like I think I'm gonna go on a trip for a few weeks. And I kind of just presented that, right? And she's like, oh, okay. And then like I kind of had been working there on, so she kind of like knew that I was just kind of like more of a casual employee. So, and this also shows like my own mindset that like I've always prioritized, at least at this point after university, I prioritized that feeling of making decisions based on how I feel, just that intuitive flow. And so by the time I go up, I had this, I'm like, I'm not even sure because I'm like getting an idea I need to go somewhere, but I don't quite know where. So I actually booked a place like nearby, like in Canada still, just like I think it was just outside of BC. So I'm just gonna go for a bit of a road trip. And I was at the airport about to go, and I suddenly got this very strong feeling like, no, you're not meant to go here, you're meant to go there. And so I actually just didn't even board that flight. And I ended up switching my flight to, I ended up flying into Seattle. And then I booked a round trip that was flying back from the same airport. So I then go to Seattle, and then the first night there, I remember also distinctly feeling, you're not going to fly back from the same airport. You're actually going to fly back from like the one closer, more south of the border, like flew back from Newport Beach, Orange County. So it was just like this feeling of like I was just simply in flow. Like I was just simply letting the story write itself. I was simply letting things present themselves to me instead of trying to force myself onto what I thought should happen. And when that happened, I realized that I didn't have to plan as much. I didn't have to think as much. I didn't even have to like scheduled as much in a sense. Like I would just simply be present and like be in tune with how I was feeling at any moment. And, even just the fact that I hadn't even been aware enough to listen to this and was able to pivot. And like, unlike that time I was at university and didn't allow myself to just withdraw, this time I'm at the job, right? And I'm like, well, I'm getting this feeling I need to just go somewhere. And I just present that. And then I go with that. It's like each step of the way, I'm just allowing that feeling to guide me. And it's like I'm letting the story write itself. And I'm not still in my mind, right? I'm not thinking, oh, I should do this, I should do that, but that's the wrong way, or that's not how you do it. It needs to be done this way. I'm not putting myself into these boxes and confining myself. I'm simply letting my own inner authority kind of show me the way, or even just like a higher self, like a higher guidance, what I call like an inner compass. And allowing this, like just allowing it to be easy. I then ended up going on a 3-week road trip that started in like Seattle and went all the way down to Arizona, but then came back up a bit to fly back from Orange County Airport. The airport is called like John Wayne or something. Yeah. So essentially, it was just like a one-way road trip, and that made more sense. But like, I didn't think of it. I didn't figure out those details in advance. I didn't plan in advance. Like each time, I would just book accommodation like as I was already there. So it was one of those instances where, like, I think that was the first time that I traveled on my own, where I didn't necessarily book things in advance. Like I had more of that self-trust now, right? I had more of that self-trust where I didn't have to have all the things figured out or prepared in advance. And like, I could allow more for the universe to show me the way as I was going about. And this is really where that idea of let the story write itself became my motto, because I had come back from this trip and it was like July. So it was like still summertime, and the days are like long, like the sun doesn't set till like sometimes after 10 p.m. And I just love that type of day where it's like one of those like slow summer days. And I was just like sitting in the living room at my mom's house, and she was like, and I was like thinking, I was like, had all these photos from like, I had started taking more photos at this time, right? Because when I was like younger, I had never really, first of all, like taken many photos, or I don't know, I just was not in that habit, right? Like even my the Pashna trip in 2012, like I literally took no photos. That is so odd to think about. I had a smartphone. I think it was like the iPhone 4 or 5, something like that. And I really did like took no photos of this trip at all. It's so odd. And now it's like 2015. I had gone on this solo trip through the west coast of the USA on my own, and I took more photos than I had before. But now I just had it sitting on my phone, right? I was like, well, what do I do with these? Okay, I also did not even have Instagram at this time. That's how like I just was not like in that groove of like sharing or being online socially in that time. So I was just thinking, what do I even do with this? I have no clue. And I was thinking, maybe I need to start a blog. And it was just like a blog. It was this idea that like, well, the whole point is that I'm sharing, it's like this whole feeling, like this whole magical adventure, like this whole journey kind of unfolded from a place of joy. It all unfolded from a place of simply allowing. It all came about from simply choosing like that feeling of peace and joy and freedom and beauty and love and peace and truth and whatnot. And like there was these like inner values that I was like prioritizing over, the feeling of confinement, the feeling of like should, or the feeling of I need to, you know, uh, overthink or think of what someone else would want, or what society says that is better for you, or what someone else, like some outer external force, right? So something outside of your own intuition and inner compass. So I was like prioritizing my own inner compass at this point. I was like, well, the whole point of this is that in prioritizing my own inner compass, I've now found a certain level of joy and ease and fulfillment that I never had when I was in university, right? Even though I completed a degree, which would seem like an accomplishment, that's like I never felt a sense of accomplishment in that. I've always had a feeling of not just dread, but almost like cringe. I'm like, oh, like I don't even like keep it. I didn't attend my graduation. Like I don't even, I've never used it in a sense. I've never felt proud or accomplished about it. And yet this 3-week trip, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so amazing. And I'm like gushing, and I'm like still on that high. And I'm like feeling so alive and so vibrant and like so fit. I'm like, oh my God, I like bike ride like such long distances, like longer distances than I usually do. Like in every city, I would like bike for like the whole day almost. Like that was almost like my preferred mode of like exploring a place. And so I come back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have all these awesome photos. What do I do with them? They're just gonna sit on my phone, or just gonna sit on like storage or just on a computer or something. Like it just seems so like the energy didn't match. It's like, wow, I just had this such a bright, awesome, like expansive experience where I'm just feeling so like excited and enthusiastic and energized. And like, you're that place you just want to share with everyone. Like you just want to burst like your enthusiasm, everyone else to feel that. And I was like, oh my God. And I didn't have Instagram this time, right? And I was like, well, I don't want to just like, you know, like one by one and be like, oh, look at like just like such a I don't know. It just, I'm like, well, what can I do with these? And that's when I had an idea, like start a blog. And I'm like, and that's when the idea came to me. It's like, let the story write itself. And I never really like started that blog. I don't know, I technologically challenged or something, or just didn't really have that work ethic or discipline to like follow through on that at the time. But what I'm trying to say is that essentially that motto stuck with me like even now, where it still resonates. And I'm like, that's pretty much the entire reason that I do anything really. And the whole reason that I also encompasses like that whole philosophy of I'm not the one who's making the decisions. I'm tuning into like a higher self, like a higher energy, and allowing that to make the decisions. Because a lot of times I feel like it's like I don't even necessarily know what I want until it's presented to me, or unless I find it, or I simply just flow with it. And I'm like, oh, interesting. And then I find things that I never even knew existed, right? And this is something that I'll probably get into more like later times. Like, traveling has exposed me to so many different things. And like every time I see something, I'm like inspired by so many things. And, even became vegan at one point, became like sustainable living and like more like zero waste and fair trade and things of that nature that are just like things that I never really considered or valued or appreciated prior. And now it's like, it's a lot more part of my everyday life. And so, Let the Story Write Itself really is about that idea of sometimes we don't know what we want. We just don't know what we don't know. And we can't always just, at least for me, it's like I don't make things happen. I feel like I allow things to happen. I just simply flow with it. So that's really a story behind Let the Story Write Itself. It's really has a basis in spirituality and intuition and alignment, because it's about tuning into an inner compass and an inner guidance. And it's allowing that to guide you, even if you don't necessarily know. You just trust and you surrender and you have your personal why. At least for me, that personal why is that because what's the point of life? Like for me, the point of life is that you simply experience it in the way that you came here to experience it. And how do you do that? You allow your inner compass. There's that saying that like we are not spiritual beings, or not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And that has always resonated with me. And like, that's true. It's like, I didn't come here. I'm like here as a spiritual being in a human form. And so, of course, I would be divinely guided by this higher self, like this intangible form of like through feeling, communicating through you in these intangible ways. So, of course, that's going to be my guidance, because that actually is the bigger part of myself, not just the more limited human form. So for me, that's really what is embodied by the motto and the name of this podcast, Let the Story Write Itself, and the would-be blog that I started it back then. I still kind of want to start a blog, but for now, just speaking and sharing these stories on my podcast is just what I'm doing at this time. But yeah, so that is episode 5 and the story behind Let the Story Write Itself.